Welcome to The Daily Show, and congratulations on a book that I think takes us behind the scenes of one of the biggest stories that has ever hit any country, and that is the story of Harvey Weinstein. You wrote the book and you titled it She Said, which is oftentimes what people say is, oh, this is he said, she said. We can't figure it out. Why use that title?
Well, what we really wanted to do was bring you with us on this investigation. The events of Me Too have come to mean so much to so many people, but we can finally tell you the truth of what happened behind the scenes. We want you there with us during those first conversations with the actresses as they're very nervous, even though these are some of the most famous women in the world, to tell us their stories. But there are actually some he's in She Said as well. For example, we want you to meet the kind of deep throat of the Weinstein investigation, Harvey Weinstein's own accountant who had worked for him for 30 years.
Wow. Telling you the stories of what happened in that world seems like it would be extremely risky for anyone who's involved in that world, because when the Harvey Weinstein stories broke, when you broke it, it was so intense, like how hard he worked to prevent anybody from speaking out against him. So how do you even begin to convince somebody to speak up when they're up against Harvey Weinstein?
Well, there were so many reasons for these women not to speak up and not go on the record. And one of the cases that we made to them was, we can't change what's happened to you in the past, but if you work with us and we are able to publish the truth, we might be able to protect other people from getting hurt.
Right, other people in the future from getting hurt.
Exactly.
Because Harvey's stories span decades. I mean, you have people who are saying this was a big part of my life. This is what Harvey Weinstein did to me. Sexual allegations, though, we've learned remain, in this world where people say, oh, it's murky and, women, men versus this, that. Nobody knows for certain. You are journalists. You're reporting on this story, but you still have to investigate the women who have come forward with these stories. Was there a conflict in how you report on that, or is there something that you just have to click into your mind and go like, I'm investigating the story and that's that?
Well, what we were looking for was evidence. This had all been in the realm of hearsay. And part of what we want people to see in this story is that facts really can have social impact when they're carefully gathered. So part of what we're explaining here is, what are secret settlements? How did we find the trail of how Harvey Weinstein paid off women for these allegations for many years? What other kinds of manipulation did he use to essentially make these women's stories disappear?
When you look at the obscuring of the truth, when you look at how Harvey Weinstein did it, does it speak to a larger issue in society? Because everyone talks about Harvey Weinstein, they go like, oh, that's the worst. But is this something that we need to be looking at on a larger level? Are there more Harveys out there in society, a Harvey Weinstein?
Oh, this story goes way beyond Harvey Weinstein. And with additional reporting, we were really able to, this really turned into an X-ray of abuse of power. I mean, we were able to pull the curtain back on the machinery that was in place to silence women and cover Weinstein's tracks. We pushed into the question of complicity, the individuals and institutions that got glimpses of his wrongdoing and basically looked the other way. So these are questions that apply to workplaces across the country, to individuals and colleagues.
Right.
And it really does speak to just a broader abuse of power.
It really is an interesting conversation about power, because in the book, you expose women who helped Harvey Weinstein maintain, his secrecy in doing these things. That I mean, must be, I think heart-wrenching, not just as a journalist, but as a woman as well, finding out how many women help Harvey Weinstein do what he does.
This story is filled with surprises about who helped and who hindered. And you're right, Lisa Bloom, a famous feminist attorney who's on TV all the time, has represented victims in very high-profile cases, actually crossed lines to help Harvey Weinstein. And she crossed to the other side, basically. And in the book, we reproduce in full a memo in which she, in her own hand, lays out, it's a kind of audition job memo for Harvey Weinstein. And what she's saying to him is they're worried about the Rose McGowan allegation that came very early on, a tweet that didn't name Harvey Weinstein. And Lisa Bloom, this famous feminist, is saying, I will manipulate on your behalf. I will smear on your behalf. And here's exactly how I'm going to do it.
It's a really heart-wrenching story when you read through it, but at the same time, it feels like it ends in a hopeful place. which I don't know if I'm interpreting the book correctly. Is that what you were trying to achieve?
Well, we actually, the last bit of, the last thing we did in the course of our reporting was a pretty extraordinary group interview. This fall will mark the 3-year anniversary of the Access Hollywood tape, the 2-year anniversary of the Weinstein story, and the 1-year anniversary of Christine Blasey Ford testifying about Brett Kavanaugh. We brought together in one room women who were central in all 3 of those stories that helped shift the culture. And we asked them, what was it like on the other side? And it was clear that for all of these women, this had been a transforming experience. And so it was clear that it wasn't, nobody could be sure what was going to happen next and where the Me Too movement was headed. But there was a consensus that by speaking up, they'd all help bring about change.
There's no doubt that the Me Too movement has affected America forever, but has it actually changed society? Have you noticed through your journalism, through your reporting, maybe even your personal experiences, that there's actually been a change in what happens in the world?
Oh, well, what's so confounding is that everything has changed and nothing has changed. On the one hand, we've seen this sort of wave of mass firings. We've seen corporations take this more seriously. On the other hand, we've seen that the basic structures and systems are still in place, and it's not clear that we have yet found a way to solve this problem. But what we can contribute as journalists is you can't solve a problem you can't see. And for a long time, nobody saw this problem fully. And so that's our job, to help everybody see it.
What do you hope people will get from the book?
What I hope people will get from the book is the idea that stories matter. You know, when Megan just described all of these diverse women we had in this room last January talking about the experiences of coming forward, it was everybody from Gwyneth Paltrow to a McDonald's worker to Christine Blasey Ford, and a woman who had come forward about Trump many years earlier, Rachel Crooks. And what I think they all saw is that these personal, intimate stories from their pasts, once they shared them with other people, they had consequence beyond what they ever could have imagined.
Oh, coming together to try and fix what's happened in the past. Thank you so much for coming on the show. It's an amazing book. I hope everybody reads it, and hopefully the happy ending will come true. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thanks
for having us.
She Said is available now. A powerful story you have to read. Jodi Kantor and Megan Twohey, everybody.